We are currently waiting on the president, set to take questions from the press in Washington. We will take you there as soon as it begins. And President Trump is turning up the pressure on Iran, demanding the regime surrender as the White House moves to keep global energy markets from spiraling. Welcome to the Big Money Show, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Brian Bremberg, and with us for the hour, Fox Business contributor Lou Bassanese. Great to have you.
Good to be here.
The flashpoint continues to be the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important energy choke points on Earth. The U.S. and its allies are working to keep shipping lanes open. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting multiple countries, including the U.S., have agreed to escort ships through the Strait. Oil is down on this news. Stocks are up, but we wait for the president and what he has to say. In the meantime, Lou, I want to talk to you about oil prices because I went to bed last night and they were 100. I woke up this morning, they're 95. This is some extreme volatility to the downside this time. Will it last?
I think it will last if we get some clarity on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this is the only thing that matters. You got to keep the main thing, and that's really the Strait of Hormuz, getting energy flowing back through the rest of the world. Everything else that you're seeing, you know, releasing from the strategic reserves, you're seeing OPEC boosting production, Saudi Arabia rerouting through pipelines, is just pain management. It's not enough to overcome the gap that is building now because of the oil that can't transport through that strait. And Iran knows it. We talked about it last week. This is their final point of leverage. The question is, what are we waiting for? Why are we not escorting them with Navy tankers? Why isn't the rest of the world helping with that? And I think it's making sure that all their military offensive powers are extinguished, so that you don't want to start and then they are successful in somehow with a drone attack or underwater mine, and then all of a sudden we go back to zero and everyone's skittish to do anything.
From all the intelligence that we have and all the reporting we have, the United States and Israel have made significant strides, Brian, in taking Iran's ammunition down. But they're at the point where they've got some stocks left and they realize we could hold on and deploy two missiles a day and still cause chaos. So it's a trickle now as they reach that ending point. But the question is, when will it eventually be over? It's difficult to say. The markets are rallying right now. The Dow is up 361 points. There's some optimism. I'm sure the president in his commentary will reassure the markets he's been doing that. But the question is, how long does that trickle last? Not that, I expect you to have the answer.
I don't know the answer to that. I do not know. Thank you. I do not know the answer to that. I'm very curious to see what the president says in this speech, because he could say we're doing everything we can. We're going to reduce their capabilities. I want to see what he says to our allies. I want to see. You mentioned the Wall Street Journal reported that they're going to agree to do these escorts. I mean, that may be true, but I haven't seen much from them. I want to see what the president says to our allies, because apparently, I didn't know this, the UK is really good at minesweeping. Did you know that? They're very good at it. They have lots of capability to do it. But where are they?
Come from the period with the German U-boats, maybe?
Could be. It could be. I don't know where it comes from. Apparently, they're very good at it. They're also apparently very slow to come help us. So we're in this situation again. This is just so typical of the Trump era, okay? You've got an opportunity for Europe to defend its own interests and advance its own interests with the Strait of Hormuz, and you've got the president of the United States dragging them to do it, right? The UK should be right there saying, we want to help keep this open, and they're not there doing it. So I think what you're going to hear the president say, probably in this speech, is that these guys are going to help. And he's going to say that not because they've 100% agreed to help, but because he's basically saying, I'm not going to let them go until they do, because this is in their interest, and I'm not going to let them free ride on this anymore.
Well, he had to drag them into increasing their defense spending, right?
NATO. 5%. He drags them into that. He's going to drag them in. And by the way, it's not dragging them into a problem. It's dragging them into their interests, which they can't see because they're so fixated on their stupid green agenda that they can't get involved in anything that makes sense for them.
It's disappointing, even after getting them up to the 5% in NATO, that the president doesn't have the support and the backing that he should at a time like this. Dagan, do you think that the allies will step up to the plate?
Well, President Trump has even called on China. Is China an ally or an adversary?
That is an interesting one.
What?
Well, they have to. They have 38% of the oil that goes through the Strait goes to them. Like, they have to step up. If they don't, they're not defending, to Brian's point, their own interests.
Do you want them to? Do you want China defending the Strait of Hormuz?
Nope.
I want everyone defending. I mean, Iran's been the global
China?
bully.
You want China?
Listen.
Well, they need the oil, so maybe they should
Well, I know
get
they
in there.
need it, but I'm
not
saying, do you want them in there?
Listen, they're involved in anything anyway, so we have to have a united front on keeping this secure to transport oil.
I'm not reading into what President Trump says publicly, because there's a method to his public presentation very often, and he is 10 steps ahead. But calling on China's getting oil, some of it from Iran. Iran is still exporting 2 million barrels a day, which is more than it was exporting before this conflict erupted. That being said, these nations were not part of this conflict. If you're right, and let's just be clear, I am not against what the president is doing and with Israel. However, if you're one of these European nations, and our allies in the Middle East, there was no heads up. And they're getting up. Saudi Arabia is getting attacked. The UAE, there was Fujairah, the oil trading hub, was attacked with drones twice over the weekend. That is a critical oil transport hub that is circumventing the Strait of Hormuz. There are a lot of hot spots in this region, and you can't point fingers at Europe and say, how dare you, that you're not getting on board with escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz.
I'm pointing fingers at them, sorry.
How about getting a heads up about this?
We know better. We know what's best for them. This is in the economic interest of the entire world, right? I can't believe we're using that left.
If you're running one of those nations, you're going to get one of your ships blown out of the water and put lives at risk. There needs to be a more. Our own military is signaling there needs to be a more stable, safe environment in the Strait before there is going to be any sort of escort.
That's true.
So the oil is down today. Watch for upside in this. There is very clear concerns about there are two major oil infrastructure points, Ras Tanura and Abqaiq, Saudi Arabian strategic oil hubs, that given Iran is still using drones, it is asymmetric, but they're still hammering a critical oil infrastructure in the region. And as I've said, oil should be higher, if not for the fact that half the crude that normally would pass through the Strait of Hormuz is moving around the globe. And that includes the waiver on Russian sanctions to unload oil. But if you're in any other country, would you put your political life on the line for something that you didn't even know about in advance? Not yet.
Okay, but markets are taking it on the chin today, recouping some of the losses we saw last week. Oil is down, at least for the moment. So these are all positive signs, Taylor, that the market's got confidence in what's happening right now. This is week 3.
Yeah.
The experts that I've heard speaking on the news channel and our channel have been saying that we are winning right now, if you were keeping score.
To me, this feels like a market that's desperate to go higher. I was reading a note this morning, NVIDIA's trading at 22 times. It's like the average for the S&P 500. It's cheap.
It's not right.
Relative.
Let's go.
It's not right, Jackie.
Let's buy
Why
it.
the disrespect for your product? It's just not right.
It's a cheap stock relative to expectations of where we were, right? That's what some people are saying, how far we have come. The transports are in correction territory, down now more than 10%. We got some really interesting data points this morning, though, that on the surface didn't look good, but underneath the surface did. And I'm wondering if this is also a market that's trying to figure out how solid was this economy going into this, because then that can sort of help out with the duration question. If we were solid going into this, how long can we last as this turmoil goes on? prices
And you
paid.
mean market-wise, not militarily.
Correct.
Right.
And oil, because oil is a different story.
So for equity markets, within the New York Fed manufacturing services, prices paid fell to the lowest since January 2025. CapEx spending rose for the third month. Maybe people are taking advantage of that big, beautiful bill. Factory output data we also got. Spending on data centers is surging. High-tech industries are up 8.6% year over year, Jackie, in terms of how much we are spending and the equipment and the factories that we are using here in the United States. Semis, communications equipment, computers, electrical equipment was up 1.1%. So that's all of that big tailwind stuff that could help us as we're sort of entering this period of volatility when prices paid now may not be the lowest in a couple years, right? If we're starting to get higher electric bills. So all of that, plus this was also something that I want to throw out there, a curveball. With these massive supply shocks, is this an industry, markets across all different sectors that say we want to be a little bit more insular? Given the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz, is this the time to take advantage of that big, beautiful bill and the tailwind on the accelerated depreciation? And I'm going to build a little bit more here because I don't like the supply shocks that I see over abroad. Is that also sort of another way that external supply shocks force companies to say, we want to invest here, and we have that big, beautiful bill as that excuse to do it.
But you can't insulate yourself from the price shock.
I'm not saying everything. I'm not saying they can.
Fertilizer and
of course.
The supply
but
disruption.
in terms of being able to write off CapEx spending, are people going to try to do that to help a little bit? Of course, oil at 100 is going to impact everything. Fertilizer, grains, we've talked about spring planting season, huge. But to me, this just feels like a market that just is waiting for something to switch so it can go higher.
I just want to add the oil industry, Wall Street Journal reporting, oil executives at every major oil company in the United States. And we, not for nothing, benefit from these higher prices because we produce the most oil in the world. They are warning the Trump administration the energy crisis in Iran has unleashed. What it's unleashed is likely to get worse. And I'm not defending Europe, but I am saying you're going to wait to see the first movers in protecting the Strait of Hormuz, and that's our military, before you join in. And it takes there's a plan in place, but it takes weeks to implement it, to get escorts through the Strait of Hormuz.
This is what Chris Wright said about energy as we wait for the president on Sunday. Let's listen.
The world is abundantly supplied with oil and energy. We knew there would be a short-term disruption in energy flows. This mission was carefully planned out. It's been superbly executed. On the other side, we'll be in a much better place. The greatest driver of terrorism in the world, the greatest threat to global energy supplies, will be defanged. Yes, we have disruption to get there, but we're going to be in a much, much better place in the not too distant future.
Lou, I agree with him on the terrorist aspect of it. You know, getting rid of the nuclear weapons is good for everybody, but the pain that we're experiencing, is he being a little bit too rosy about it?
I don't think so. I think Brian said it best last week when you were talking about, look, the president knew all the tailwinds that were going to be coming in the back half of the year, and he said, you know what, we're going to go do this in Iran now. There was credible evidence that they were going to attack us. I look at the industry right now. If we have a re-rate in oil in the 60s to 70s, that makes it much more profitable and actually economical for most of the Permian Basin to drill. People have been misquoting what break-evens are completely. The latest Dallas Fed survey shows that break-even for new wells is right at $60 to $61 a barrel. So that means you need prices above that for us even to go out and build more wells. If you don't do that, what people fail to understand is that a well declines in its production rate by 60 to 70% in year one in the Permian, and then 30 to 40% after that. So we have to always be drilling new wells. I think the president is wise to know that we have to get the uncertainty out of the market from Iran and then give that certainty. Look, if we got used to $100 a barrel in oil for 3-4 weeks, we're going to think 65, 70.
But Ray,
and we need to be, that's where we should be in an inflation-adjusted basis anyway.
I raised the issue, though. Does that worry go away? Does this worry about Iran fully go away instead of wringing your hands about not you, about boots on the ground. What about forever patrols in the Strait of Hormuz?
Could be, but it went away when we bombed. Like I thought, and everyone in the industry thought oil was going to go to 120 when we bombed Iran's nuclear armaments, right? Like, and it didn't. It actually went backwards. So I think
because
the
didn't
administration
shut the
is
Strait.
right. But I believe the administration is right. Prices will come back down.